Human evolution is one of the most fascinating stories in the history of life on Earth. It's a journey spanning millions of years, involving multiple species, climate changes, and key adaptations that shaped us into Homo sapiens, the modern humans we are today. But how did it all begin? And who were our ancient ancestors? Our story starts around 6 to 7 million years ago in Africa, when our lineage split from the ancestors of modern chimpanzees. The first hominins, the earliest members of our family tree, began the transition to walking on two legs, a key characteristic that would define human evolution. Brain size also started to increase, marking the development of enhanced intelligence, problem-solving, and complex social behavior. The human journey starts with Sahelanthropus chadensis, which is one of the earliest known hominins. Sahelanthropus chadensis was discovered in Chad and is thought to have lived 6 to 7 million years ago. This is a key date, as it is about the time that scientists believe the human line diverged from the ape line. Sahelanthropus chadensis had numerous derived hominin features and is therefore considered the oldest known human ancestor, although this remains controversial. Sahelanthropus chadensis had a small brain, similar in size to a chimpanzee's, but its skull shows features that indicate it might have walked upright, possibly marking the beginning of bipedalism. Fast forward a few million years, and we encounter a group of hominins known as the australopithecines. These early bipeds were still quite ape-like in many ways, but they were already adapting to life on the ground. One of the most famous of these species is Australopithecus afarensis, which lived between 3.85 and 2.95 million years ago in eastern Africa. This species, best known from the skeleton of Lucy, found in Ethiopia, was fully bipedal but still retained features useful for climbing. They had small brains, but their bipedalism allowed them to explore new environments. Living in the East African savannas, Australopithecus afarensis had to adapt to an increasingly changing climate, which may have influenced the development of tools, though evidence is scarce. Other Australopithecine species, such as Australopithecus africanus, have been discovered in South Africa, suggesting several species of early hominin coexisted in several locations across the continent. About 2.5 million years ago, the first species of our own genus, Homo, emerged. This period marks a turning point in human evolution, the beginning of tool use, bigger brains, and more sophisticated behaviors. Homo habilis, often called the handyman, is considered the first true human ancestor to use tools. Homo habilis lived around 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago. With larger brains than their Australopithecine ancestors, Homo habilis crafted simple stone tools known as Oldowan tools. The name is taken from the site of Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, where the first Oldowan stone tools were discovered. These early humans likely used them to cut meat, process plants, and perhaps defend themselves. Diversification in diet and consumption of energy-rich meat is another characteristic of early human ancestors that may have allowed larger brains to evolve. While still small in stature, Homo habilis laid the foundation for more advanced behaviors in later hominin species. Around 1.9 million years ago, a new hominin species appeared on the scene, Homo erectus. This species not only had a much larger brain than its predecessors, but also became the first human ancestor to leave Africa. Homo erectus was a true pioneer, migrating out of Africa and spreading into Asia and possibly even Europe. They were taller, with long legs well suited for walking and running over long distances. But what truly sets them apart is their innovation. They had much larger brains than their predecessors and used advanced stone tool technology known as the Acheulean stone tool industry, which consisted of the creation of large cutting tools like hand axes and cleavers. They are also credited with mastering the use of fire, which would have been crucial for warmth, cooking, and protection. This species survived for nearly 2 million years, making them one of the longest-lasting hominin species. A subspecies of Homo erectus, known as Peking man, existed in China until about 230,000 years ago. They had a heavy skull with a prominent brow ridge and a characteristic protruding face. Based on fossil evidence, some scientists distinguish between the African forms, known as Homo ergaster, and Asian forms, the more archetypal Homo erectus. It is likely that Homo erectus coexisted with other human ancestors in Africa, such as early Homo habilis and Homo rudolfensis. Importantly, distinct populations of Homo erectus in Eurasia may have led to the emergence of later hominin species, such as Homo heidelbergensis, and ultimately to our own species, Homo sapiens. While Homo erectus was migrating across the globe, another species evolved in Europe and Western Asia, the Neanderthals. Homo neanderthalensis lived between 400,000 and 40,000 years ago. These ancient humans were adapted to survive the harsh conditions of the Ice Age. Neanderthals were stockier and more robust than modern humans, with large brains and advanced tool-making abilities. They were skilled hunters and are thought to have lived in social groups, even caring for their sick and elderly. Though often depicted as brutish, Neanderthals were highly intelligent and capable of symbolic thought. They buried their dead and possibly created art. Neanderthals coexisted with modern humans for thousands of years, and there is even evidence that the two species interbred, leaving traces of Neanderthal DNA in many humans today. Early humans may have also interbred with another closely related ancient Homo species, the Denisovans, which lived in Asia at the same time as the Neanderthals existed in Europe. Finally, around 300,000 years ago, our own species, Homo sapiens, appeared in Africa. What made us different? Larger brains, complex language, and an unparalleled ability to adapt to different environments. Homo sapiens evolved in Africa and eventually migrated out to replace or absorb other hominin species. Unlike earlier species, Homo sapiens showed an unprecedented capacity for innovation, creating sophisticated tools, art, and culture. Our cognitive abilities allowed us to build societies, develop agriculture, and eventually create civilizations. This cultural explosion, fueled by symbolic thought, language, and communication, led us to dominate the planet. From ancient hominins walking upright on the savannas to humans exploring space, our story is one of continuous adaptation and survival. Thank you for watching our human story. If you liked the video, please subscribe to Science Curious.